Can I even draw? Can I even paint? What do I even like to do? How do I like to do it? What is the final product gonna look like? Welcome back to another little painting session. So I actually haven't painted in a really long time. I haven't even really drawn in a really long time. And it's crazy because I've been doing a lot of client work, but client work and actually developing your own artistic practice, I've come to realize are two entirely different things. And I kind of knew this all along, and they obviously do have moments where they collide. A lot of the work that I do commercially is based off of what I do in my art practice, but they're not always the same and they don't influence each other always. And what I'm realizing is that the more client work I do, which I love to do and, you know, allows me to make a living, doesn't like necessarily feed my soul always. Sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. And I've just been feeling lately like I need to push my work more and I want to get back to just kind of exploring stuff. So that's why we're here today. But today is not so much about exploration as just getting back into the habit. I haven't drawn in a really long time, so this is kind of like a session to break through that, because now I have this like mental block of like, can I even draw? Can I even paint? What do I even like to do? How do I like to do it? So today we're gonna paint, and to be honest, it's a repainting of this sketch here. So this is a sketch I did a bit ago. I liked it and I painted it. I actually did paint it. Here is the previous version. It's cute and I like it, but I actually want to change the colors to like a palette that I use more often. I've used this palette digitally, but I haven't actually created this palette with my watercolors. Like I just forgot that I could mix my own watercolors. Like I don't have to just use the color that's in the bottle. I can like add different color. I can mix colors. So today I'm gonna try mixing some colors and just like kind of getting back to loving making stuff, because I've been really disconnected from it in like a personal way. So today is about just breaking through that so it doesn't feel so intimidating to get back into sketching and get back into playing with my watercolors and just having a little bit of fun. And to do that, I'm gonna repaint this because that's gonna take the pressure off of me. If I were to draw something new, I'd have a lot of thoughts in my head like, is this gonna be good? Is this a good idea? How should I paint? I'd be debating a lot of stuff. So I already know what I want this to look like. I'm just changing the colors and I'm gonna have fun and enjoy the process. Because a lot of the times I'm so focused on the outcome and worried about the outcome being good or bad that I don't really enjoy the process. So this video is all about enjoying the process, having fun with these watercolors and pencils, and just relaxing and painting. So join me, we'll see how this turns out. Let's just get started, let's get into painting. So I needed to grab all my materials. I'm using my Ecoline Watercolor Inks, my Carbothello pastel pencils, and I'm just sharpening them up. I got these random little brushes I'm gonna use today, and look, I painted it and it all bled and I hated it. So I decided to repaint it the next day. I know, already tragic. I know, I was talking about perfectionism, I know, but it just didn't look good with the colors all bled out like that. So here I am. This is theoretically or technically take 2 of this painting, but you know, I just wasn't happy with the first take and I didn't want to show you guys that whole process just because I ended up being really frustrated. And I guess that's part of breaking out of a creative rut, is you try to and you start and you may mess up, and that's just part of it. But on this second try, I was a lot more confident and kind of just like more focused too. I think in the previous try that I didn't end up liking, I was kind of so focused with the camera setup, and because I'm using 2 cameras and a new camera and the mics, and I just kind of got distracted and flustered, and because I spent a lot of time setting up, that by the time it was time to get painting, I was just kind of like, ugh. So on the next day, it was a lot simpler to get started. And here you can see I mixed my own colors. You can kind of see it in the palette on the upper right. And that was actually pretty challenging. I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty annoyed with mixing my own colors. I guess because I've just been using Procreate for a while and Adobe and Photoshop and just basically digital editing tools that make, you know, having custom colors extremely easy. That when I had to mix my own colors, it was really frustrating. A lot of the colors I did use out of the bottle because that's what I wanted, like this pink and the orange, but actually that green is a green that I darkened to make it less fluorescent. And same with this, this skin tone that I have, I just used straight out of the bottle, and same with this blue. But there are that purple that's in the candle holder, I mixed that myself, and you know, it wasn't a problem to get the right color. What was a problem was actually like getting the right amount of liquid, because once you start mixing the colors, they get really obviously watery because these are watercolors. And then when it's too watery with this paper, it was getting kind of patchy. So there was some struggle there for sure. And that kind of explains why my colors were bleeding yesterday, but oh well. Here I'm just doing some of her hair. I decided to paint it brown. I think it's the same as yesterday, but I didn't actually mess it up, which, you know, is a perk, huge perk, because that mess up was really haunting me the day before. So yeah, I mean, the whole thing with this painting is to get out of a creative rut, and I think I did. It just took me 2 tries. And truthfully, while I was making it, I was hating it, because like I said, the custom colors that I mixed, like the one I'm using right now, were so watery that they kind of look kind of splotchy, if you can see it. Yeah, you can tell right there, there's like, you know, it's hard to get it even when the color is also kind of like mixed, and it's very liquidy because I'm mixing these inks together. So that was less than ideal. And even the skin tone, which is like pre-bottled, I messed it up and it's like pretty patchy, but what can I do? So after that, after laying down the basic colors, you can see I even skipped certain elements. I decided like, I think this is enough elements for what I want. I went in with the Stabilo Carbothello black pencil and just colored and outlined things. Some people have asked me like, why don't you just use color pencil? I don't know, something about this texture that the pastel pencil has, I just prefer. It's like chalkier, almost a little bit more like charcoal. It just has like a different scratch that I'm just obsessed with and I can't get away from. And when I use color pencil, it's like too dense and smooth, and I don't like how it feels to color with it. I don't like the final result. I just prefer the pastel pencil so much more, even though it's a lot harder to control. Like I have to sharpen it a lot while I'm working. I have to not touch it because it will smudge super easily. So like that's why my hand, it's like actually like hovering over this, because otherwise it will smudge and that looks super, super lame. But I would just really like the final finish. And my favorite thing to do with watercolors and pastel pencils is have these like little moments where it's just pastel pencil and barely watercolor. Like this is mostly just, this little wine glass is mostly pastel pencil, and I just love how that looks. And it's just like trying to find that balance between the watercolor fill and the pastel pencil is kind of what I'm always trying to marry. And something I didn't try with this piece was kind of like smudging the pastel pencil, because I love the way smudged pastel pencil looks, because it's just like diffused. It's kind of charcoaly, but I just can't figure out how I want to control it and get it to look like have a clean edge, which is why I've been relying on the watercolor. But I don't love the process of mixing watercolor. Like I just prefer dry materials, I think. I just don't like the way it looks filled when it's just pencil. So that's why I'm using the watercolor to kind of fill the color. Here I started using a brown pastel pencil to kind of give the hair some texture. And I really like this effect, like the same color over the same color, just because it adds like brown watercolor with brown pastel pencil on top. I just really like the texture that it adds. So I still really love my pastel pencils. I'm trying to find that balance between the watercolor and the pastel pencil, and like the bare pastel pencil like I'm doing right now with that edge mixed with like filled watercolor. Just like that's the parts that I do really like and make me want to keep using watercolor. So here's the finished result. Honestly, I wasn't loving it. As soon as I finished it, I didn't love it. Like I didn't like how patchy it looked, how wobbly some of my lines look. But now in retrospect, looking back at this footage and looking back at the piece, I do really like how it turned out. I'm gonna scan it and you know, polish it up and share it with you guys, but I do really like it, and I'm excited to continue using this process and fine-tuning it. I hope you liked this little video, and thanks for watching.